Despite having the best car on the grid at the start of the 2022 F1 season, Ferrari's performances have been disappointing. However, the Prancing Horse team has initiated an upgrade that changes everything. Join us in today's video. We'll reveal what this upgrade is all about and what it means for other teams on the paddock. Every Formula One fan knows Ferrari has hugely underperformed this season. It was always going to be hard to displace Red Bull, but given all the buzz from Ferrari during preseason, you'd expect that they'd at least provide stiff competition. That obviously hasn't been the case, and all the early momentum shown by the team seems to have faded away as the season progressed. But like the rest of the grid, Ferrari got the opportunity to tweak things as they attempt to salvage their season. Upgrade is music to the ears of Formula One fans. As we all know, the F1 season is a marathon, and cars tend to change from time to time as engineers introduce upgrades to improve performance. More often than not, this tends to increase the team's chances of scoring points and challenging for titles. However, once there's an opportunity to upgrade, all the teams are always on high alert. This time though, the championship looks done and dusted already. However, the competition for upgrades remains fierce. And speaking about teams that are in dire need of upgrades, Ferrari immediately jumps out on the long list. The Prancing Horse brand will be disappointed by how things have panned out this season, especially considering the type of machinery they have. In terms of speed, the F175 was by far the best car on the grid for a while. And more importantly, it had the efficiency to deliver peak performance on just about any track and weather. But somehow, all of these features disappeared at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Right from the qualifying session on Saturday, the F175 was looking like an entirely different car without pace. And since then, the car seems to be suffering from technical issues every other race week. Some analysts believe this is down to the fact that the tyres on the F175 now wear out faster than they used to in the past because, unlike in the past, Ferrari drivers have to rev them a little bit longer to get them to optimum temperature. And this obviously has a negative effect on the pace of the car. We saw a much better performance at Monza as Charles Leclerc took pole position ahead of Max Verstappen. As expected, Ferrari feel like they can build on that performance and get more points on the board. But it all depends on whether or not they're able to implement the right upgrades. According to reports, Ferrari are convinced their budget is large enough to accommodate at least 2 more major upgrades, with a view of implementing the first one in Singapore and the other in Mexico. But what exactly will these upgrades entail? Sources across the grid believe that Ferrari's upgrade in Singapore was focused on improving the floor and wing of the F175. This is expected to increase the amount of downforce generated by the car and ultimately give Ferrari the upper hand in low and medium speed corners against teams like Red Bull and the likes. But if this is the case, why didn't Ferrari implement it earlier? The thing with upgrades is that they are not introduced all at once. The teams have to first study the performance of the car and take in the feedback from the drivers before deciding which part of the car needs to be upgraded. And going into the season, nobody would have imagined that the F175 would be needing multiple upgrades. But here we are. Referencing the importance of upgrades, Ferrari team boss Matteo Binotto claims the tweaks implemented by Red Bull to reduce their tyre degradation has contributed to their success this season. But unfortunately, the same cannot be said of his team. In terms of tyre degradation, it's almost as if Red Bull and Ferrari swapped places. Initially, Ferrari had the better tyre degradation stats. This was evident at the Austrian Grand Prix, where Charles Leclerc got in front of Max Verstappen 3 times within the race. But having gone back to the garage to make adjustments, Red Bull now have the better tyre degradation rate of both teams. In the last races, I think that the performance of the Red Bull has been better than ours. Not in qualifying, because I see that in qualifying we have still got a good pace, Binotto said. So let me say that pure performance is still there, but then with the race pace we are suffering tyre degradation. In that respect, I think the Red Bull is a better car, so they've been capable of developing that car for a better balance that we didn't. Confirming Matty Binotto's suspicions, reigning world champion Max Verstappen admits these changes have been helpful, saying, we are having an amazing year and it's important to enjoy it as well. I think we've had a lot of different challenges on different kinds of tracks, and now the car really seems to work at every track. And yeah, we are extremely pleased. When it comes to upgrades, Red Bull has been spot on so far this season. The new lightweight chassis designed by the team is expected to give a 0.3 second advantage over other cars on the grid, and everyone is sort of waiting to see how that will play out when it is tested for the first time in Singapore, especially considering Red Bull's dominance to stay on top of the championship standings this season. Further down the standings, Alpine looks like a team that can shock the whole paddock with the new insane upgrades that they have lined up. We probably won't be surprised to see an Alpine car finishing podium places in Singapore. They've threatened to upset the norm a couple of times this season, producing some impressive performances like Belgium, where Fernando Alonso finished 5th. Alpine seems to have one of the best cars amongst the midfield teams, with decent pace on the straight and around corners, and you'd expect that they'll become even better with the incoming upgrades. We've got a new floor coming for Singapore, which has got a massive step of downforce. We'll be back where we should be, and we're really looking forward to going there, and especially Suzuka with this car. It's going to be fun, Alpine Sporting Director Alan said. Mercedes are another team who hope to leave Singapore with a good result, having carried out a couple of upgrades on the rear wings and floors of their cars as well. Expressing his optimism ahead of the race, Team Technical Director Mike Elliott said, "I think when you look back at the learning we've gathered over the season, we can expect Singapore to be a bit more like we've seen in Budapest and Zandvoort." He added, "It's a bumpy circuit which is going to provide its challenges, but in terms of the nature of the corners, we think it will be a bit better for our car, so hopefully we'll have a good result there." Mercedes perhaps needed the upgrade more than any other team on the grid. Their revolutionary side pods design was hailed by many analysts during the preseason. But it turned out to be the wrong design, causing them to ensure perhaps the worst season in their history. From winning 7 consecutive championships to pushing Red Bull all the way last season, Mercedes were relegated to becoming a midfield team this season. The gap in class has been embarrassing on some occasions, and for the first time in his career, Lewis Hamilton looks like he'll end the F1 season without a race win. But despite their failings, they've managed to clinch 13 podiums and are only 34 points behind Ferrari. This shows how bad Ferrari has been themselves. Even with all the talks of having the better car earlier on in the season, Ferrari has only managed 4 races all season, and you feel that had Mercedes fixed their porpoising problems a bit earlier, the Prancing Horse brand would be further down the pecking order. And this is why the upgrade is just as important to Ferrari as it is to every other team in the paddock. From the team's display in Singapore, where Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz finished 2nd and 3rd respectively, it's obvious that the upgrades paid off. But they'll be hoping to take it one step further to start winning races again. Do you think they can? Let us know what you think in the comments section down below.